And a very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen around the world, and welcome to our sunrise safari. There hasn't been much of a sunrise, though. It's got a sort of a dark and gloomy look to it all. It's chilly this morning, which is wonderful news for all of us. It's 20 degrees centigrade, which is about 67 degrees Fahrenheit. And we've started off the morning with a magical little herd of elephants. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, this is a live safari, which means, first of all, that it's happening in real time right here on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands. It also means that you absolutely never know what's around the next corner and what's going to happen with your day. Planning is a physical impossibility. You can also send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Good morning, elephants. Baby girls. How nice of you to come and join us. It keeps threatening to rain. You get the storm clouds overhead, and yet nothing's really come of it. It's nice to see that there's nudge in the bottom there from the young male. Hello, boy. You're pushing your weight around a little bit. You're being naughty. He's right at that age where he's really starting to... He's bigger than the females, but he's still young. He's about, probably somewhere in the region of about 15. So he is starting to get to the point where he's going to be kicked out of the herd, but not quite. So he's pushing his weight around, shoving probably his mother around. But very soon he's going to be off on his own, and that bravado... Here we go again. Don't look at me, Mommy. That wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. Leopard girls. This herd spent the night on quarantine last night. I saw them as I was heading home. Although I imagine they probably moved into the thicker bush as soon as it started to blow and drizzle slightly, just to find some shelter. Little one's been distracted by whatever it's snacking on there at the base of the trees. Looks like wild asparagus, actually. And bits of grass shoots. Maybe we can hear the dung beetles buzzing around with that incredible accuracy and speed with which they seem to locate elephant herds and fresh elephant dung. Hello, little girl. Run to catch up with Mom. Interesting that she hasn't started growing her tusks yet, because she's not that young. They should start to come through very soon. In fact, I think I can see where they're going to start to protrude. But there's always that small possibility that her tusks will never grow, and that she's going to remain tuskless for the rest of her life. That these ellies probably spent the night out on quarantine, and they would have alternated between... She's going to keep moving away from us. They would have alternated between sleeping and dozing and then wandering around, maybe having a bit of a snack. And Christopher, who's watching in Arizona, wanted to know how long elephants sleep for and what they do in between. So do they feed constantly when they're awake? They can sleep for, I've seen an elephant sleep for up to an hour and a bit, especially the little ones. The babies sleep much longer than the adults do, and interestingly enough, they can all lie down. So even the adults have been seen, I've seen them lying down flat on their sides or leaning up against a tree or a termite mound. The adults can't lie down for as long as the youngsters can, though. And then in terms of what they do with the rest of their day, if they are awake, then yes, they'll be feeding pretty much constantly from when they wake up to when they go back to sleep again. Sometimes the babies make time for playing. But it's hard work maintaining a couple of tons worth of body weight. Especially at this time of year. You notice that the herds tend to get very spread out as the animals go around and look for access to nutrients. And even though we have started with a very gloomy and cold day, there's still no sign of any real rain. There were about 2 drops of drizzle last night, and that was it. The promised thunderstorm never materialized. As we reposition and move around, I believe we have some special fans in final control, so a warm welcome, or slightly cloudy, drizzly welcome to your live viewing of our live safaris. And I believe that Brent would like to say good morning to you all, so we'll head across to him.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Yesterday, VM and myself spent a lot of time looking for these wildebeest to try count how many babies were left. But it looks like the herd's still in dribs and drabs, and they've been separated after being hunted by the lions. And we're not seeing any of the females. There's one pregnant female over there, but I'm not seeing... Oh, there are still some more wildebeest coming. And I thought I heard a baby go meh a few seconds ago. My name is Brent Smith, and I have Vim, aka the wildebeest on camera, and wildebeest in front of the camera. Oh, here comes some more females. Maybe there's a baby. I see a baby. I see 2 babies. 3 babies. So there were about 5 or 6 with the herd earlier, so 50% have survived so far. And the first couple of weeks, they do have a very high mortality rate, upwards of 70%. Isn't that awesome, that little sound? Well, good to know that there are still some babies around, and they're on a mission at the moment in this cold, windy weather. There they go. Looks like they might slowly be meandering their way back towards the quarantine clearings near camp. So our plan this morning is to go look for those lions. I have a sneaking suspicion they have crossed out of our traverse zone, but we will be checking anyway. What I am hoping is maybe those girls managed to call the boys across from the south, and we might have some Birmingham boys on safari this morning. As I said, I'm very hopeful. Realistically, the girls probably went to the boys. So the direction they were heading last night was straight towards where we heard the male lions calling in the morning. So we're going to go check our southern boundary, see if we can find any tracks. While we do that, let's go back to Jamie and the pachyderms.
Still with our mother and calf, the rest of the herd keeps moving ahead of them into quite a thick drainage line. So we'll spend a little bit more time with them before going ahead with my original plan, which was to head across to that new hyena den and see whether the mother was successful or not. But we'll chat more about that later. those thorns. She's just casually eating a buffalo thorn. Oh, there was the tongue. Pulling it into her mouth. And I know it's something we remark upon pretty much every time we see them, but buffalo thorns are some of the worst thorns to get tangled up in. They're sharp, they're hooked, and of absolutely no significance to this elephant. It's like they don't exist. Imagine how thick the skin in your mouth has to be that you don't feel the thorns piercing you, or they can't pierce you. All reinforced with a slightly dark pigment known as melanin. Very similar to giraffes. And baby as well, going for the other incredibly thorny tree in the bush, the knobthorn. It's interesting that that little baby doesn't have tusks yet. She should have.
I think I saw a small one on the left.
Did you? Little flash of white. Oh. Immediately turned her head into a guarri bush. Andrew says he saw a small piece of tusk poking out. And I forgot to mention that I have the inimitable Andrew Francis on camera with me this morning, providing you with the sterling camera work as always. We'll have to have a look when she comes out. Mom is devouring that buffalo thorn. It's always interesting to watch the way that herd dynamics play out. The rest of the herd has moved off completely now into and behind in the drainage line. The young male's still loitering, looking to cause trouble, and she has definitely had a mud bath in the last 24 hours. It's still crusted around her legs and around her ears and her tummy. You can see that prominent ridge of her spine quite nicely at this angle and in this light. And that's one of the other identifying features. We always look at the profile of the forehead when we're looking at males versus females. But there's also, in females, a slightly more raised dorsal edge, so the spine. It's always a bit more prominent in the females. Look at all that mud in her ears. And then that very angular forehead is the giveaway that we're looking at a female. Well, Sonia, yes, that is dirt in her ears. I saw her a little bit earlier sticking her trunk in there, so I don't know if it's now slightly irritating to her. But it's all crusted around there. And over the next few hours, as she shakes her ears and flaps her ears, it will start to crumble off. But for now, she's got a nice layering of dried dirt, and on her forehead as well. It makes me kind of itchy at the thought. I think that would drive me mad. She was blowing in her ear earlier with her trunk, so it might be irritating her a little bit. But a good way of keeping parasites at bay as well. Elephants generally don't get ticks in the main portions of their bodies in the same way that, say, buffalo and the other antelope species do. But they can get ticks around the more sensitive areas, sensitive parts of the skin. And I imagine that the inner ear is one of them. we've chatted a bit about the fact that she's devouring an incredibly sharp and thorny tree, and we'll stop off and have a look at one when we've moved away from this herd. But Ryan, you were wondering whether they can eat acacia trees as well. And yes, it's one of their favorite foods at a certain time of year. They devour them. Now, acacia trees out here are the ones with the big, long, white thorns. And it's astounding to think that they are able to munch those like they mean nothing. What's even more incredible to me, because acacia thorns are modified leaves, so they're actually quite soft in their own way. But there are thorn trees out here known as sickle bushes, where the spines, or the thorns, are modified branches. And those are instant flat tire territory. If you drive over one of those, you are going to get a flat tire. And yet elephants can just stick entire branches in their mouths and crunch them. How they do it, I know realistically how they can do it, but it still amazes me. This is actually a very, very large herd. I've just seen about 10 or so individuals run across the road in front of me and then down into the drainage line. When we have a chance, we'll loop around them and have a look at them. And I don't want to upset our peaceful pair. Look at those eyelashes. That eyelash looks about, at its longest, probably, what would that be? About 10 centimeters? 5 or so inches? Twisting and curling her trunk. Another interesting aspect of that buffalo thorn that she's munching on is that we could eat that as well. And it does sometimes get used almost as fresh spinach is used in traditional meals. Fairly bland and tasteless, in my opinion, but you can eat the leaves of the buffalo thorn. Hey, beautiful. Your family's gonna start moving off. And there's that wonderful tail of theirs with the long hair at the base. Useful as a fly swatter and a mood indicator. Interesting. The babies moved into some more thick bush actually, but I'd like to just compare. Have a look at the hair. Remember what her tail looked like, and then we'll have a look at the young one's tail. Because her daughter barely has any hair growing out of her tail at the moment. Ooh, gongos are chirping away crazy. Done with that buffalo thorn. Let's go see if we can find the rest of the herd. I think I saw some tiny babies there as well. I always give elephants a slightly wider personal space and comfort space on mornings like this, because when it gets windy and cloudy, there's something about it that plays havoc with their mood. And we know that for most animals, windy days make them slightly uncomfortable. That's something we repeat very regularly, as almost like a mantra. But for new viewers, as soon as the wind starts to blow, an animal's sense of smell and hearing is compromised, and it makes them a little bit more on edge and uncomfortable. Where Brent was with the lions yesterday. There's the ellies. youngster. Hello, baby. Excuse me. Tiny little calf. Also covered in mud. They've obviously had a wonderful time yesterday when it was still hot, rolling around. Elephants all over the place. Little tussling duo there. I love that body posture with their ears up. Exuding attitude. Following behind. Oh. Trying to initiate a game. There's nothing like having a cousin, an older cousin to play with. Well spotted, Andrew. Older cousin doesn't seem so keen on playing. Now, when they start to reach about 3.5 years old, they start to grow their permanent tusks. But before that, they do have little milk tusks, very often that don't protrude from the base of the trunk in any way. They're just there as little baby teeth, essentially. And Lael, who's watching in America, would like to know if we ever find those, when they fall out, and if they are considered ivory. I don't know of any cases of people finding them, and if they did, how to recognize them. I don't know. Possibly, but I've never heard of it happening, and I certainly have never found any myself. And they probably would be considered to be ivory, but I mean, we're talking really, really tiny little tusks. So nothing of too much value, and you probably find that they've disappeared off into the bush. I think they'd be very difficult to track down and find. Much like our ellie herd is going to prove to be. Just thinking which is the best way to go through. Now Sharon's been incredibly observant in terms of watching the elephant's behavior. Now we saw earlier that little one trying to provoke a game with its tail sticking out straight behind it and all stiff, and Sharon wanted to know that although the ears are good mood indicators, surely the tail is just as good, if not better, because whenever there's the tiny little tusks coming through. Because whenever an elephant is slightly irritated or annoyed, that tail stiffens up as sort of half-mast. Absolutely. Two really good mood indicators of an elephant, tail and ears. Ears up and out and making itself look big, very good indication that that elephant is irritated. But the tail is just as useful, and it's very often when I've done walks where you can't really see the elephant's face as you're approaching through bush. You can only really see their tails, at which point watching the way that because naturally when elephants are resting and feeding, their tails swing from side to side. But if you approach them on foot and you want to know if that animal is aware of you, as soon as that tail stops, then you know that that elephant has sensed you. Even if they're still relaxed, you know that they're aware of your presence. Baby's come back out, sorry Andrew. Having a scratch on mom. I think it's going to go and have a bit of a feed. Young baby, only a couple of months old. Oh, rubbing mud off on mom. What you doing with your leg, baby? giving a stretch. I love the way they put their trunks in their mouths. It's almost like a comfort. Oh, that's incredible. Having a serious scratch there.
Like he has a thorn in his foot. Just on the left there.
Looks like he has a thorn on his foot. I'm impressed. That shows a distinct level of flexibility. There's that little tail poking out that Sharon was chatting about. Maybe he does have a thorn in his foot. Now the front leg's up, although we can't see it behind Mom. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Doing a little dance for us. Still got that rounded, childlike or immature shaped head of an elephant under a year old. It's a little boy. A little boy with lots of itches. And possibly a thorn in his toe. They're incredible animals. Oh, hello, girl. Here's our original female, come to join the rest of the herd. Hello, beautiful. I love it when elephants are relaxed like this. It's like we're not even here. Making absolutely no impact on their day. There's a depth of perception in elephants' eyes. We've been watching all of the mud that's covered their ears. And Sabrina, who is 12 years old, hey Sabrina, glad you're watching once again. Sabrina wanted to know whether or not elephants ever get ear infections, and I think it's probably possible. I think it's unlikely just because their immune systems are much tougher than ours are. But I do think there's a possibility that they can get an ear infection, something that would make them incredibly grumpy, and useful to remember that no matter how peaceful you know an elephant herd to be, bear in mind that an elephant could have something like earache or toothache. An abscess on their tusk would be incredibly painful. And it has been recorded to happen that grumpy elephants that have caused trouble with people have been doing so because there's something like that wrong with them. Baby's still having a scratch on Mom. There's an interesting aside. Poor old Scotty D will at some point be back on safari with you, but he does have a serious ear infection. So he will be back up and running at some point, hopefully. We wish him all the best. He's been a bit man down. Oh, little one sucking its trunk. We get to see these amazing creatures and get an idea of the lives that they lead. But there's one aspect where we generally don't get to have much in the way of interaction, and that's in terms of their tactile feel. But Wendy, you were wondering about the hair on an elephant's tail, and if it's soft or coarse like a bristle brush. Well, I've been fortunate enough to spend time with darted elephants in the past, and as soon as an animal's under anesthetic, then I always take the opportunity to explore as much of it as possible. The tail hair is very, very coarse and thick, almost like wire. Very, very thick. And the hairs around the mouth as well are also very bristly. There goes our last view of the little baby, going with Mom. Tail out stiffly, just as Sharon observed. Bear in mind, of course, that the body language of baby elephants is to be read differently to that of the adults. As soon as this female follows the rest of the herd into that drainage line, I'm not going to push them any further. It's very dense in there, and all it's going to do is upset them and send them moving fast away from us. And in case you're wondering, sorry about that ball of GoPros, that is a virtual reality rig. We're just experimenting with it. Now that thick mud protection that we've been seeing on them serves as a anti-parasite and anti-itching device, but it can also help protect them from the sun. And Roger, you're right, to an extent elephants don't really get sunburned. The only real area that they might is the thin skin around the ear. That's slightly more sensitive than the rest of them. But in terms of animals that are incredibly sensitive to sun exposure, probably the most famous example is the hippo. Hippopotamuses do get very sunburnt, and for that reason they secrete a red oily substance, which actually led to the erroneous belief that they sweat blood. It's not blood, it's an oily substance that is both a sun protectant as well as a antibacterial lotion for all of their little cuts and scrapes that tend to fester in the water. And it's something that biologists and and scientists are looking at imitating in terms of producing sunscreen for humans. And then the other animals that will get sunburned, and it's one of the reasons why it is an aberration in terms of coloration. I'm sure many of you will have heard about white lions and albino colored animals, white elephants, white buffaloes. All of those animals seriously struggle, not only in the sun, but also with their camouflage. They are compromised, which is why those genes are so rare. You can see that line there from where she's been walking through bushes, and they've just scraped ever so slightly on the skin. You'll see that on pretty much all elephants. They'll bear the marks of where they've pushed through sticks and branches and twigs. It's a pity that our little baby disappeared off into the block, but James Taylor was wondering how baby elephants suckle. Now, they use their mouths, not their trunks, and it's always highly entertaining to watch. As an interesting aside, little small fact about elephants, unusually for most of the animals out here, their nipples are between their front legs, not their back legs. So most of the animals out here, the nipples are between the back legs. The exceptions to that are the primates, and then the elephants, as well as the elephant's closest relative, which is a tiny rock-dwelling creature known as a rock hyrax or a dussie. It's mizzling on us. It's not really drizzling, it's just mizzling. Which I'm not sure, thank you Andrew, I'm not sure mizzling is an actual word, but I feel like it fits the current state of affairs. And I imagine if you're an elephant and you've been wandering around in 40-degree heat, this change in temperature must be absolutely wonderful, because I know I'm enjoying it, and I'm not 5 tons. Interesting point that Chris Rogue has raised about whether or not that mud could act as insulation. So as I've said, it's a chilly day, and those ears are incredibly useful in terms of heat loss, but then of course on very cold days that's generally not what you need to do. That's a somebody's rumbling. That's a distinct possibility, but I don't think so. I think that the heat generated by the elephants, I don't think that they very often get too cold. Just by their volume to surface area ratio, They maintain their internal body temperature fairly effectively in terms of not getting too cold. But it could be an insulating factor. Hey, girl. I'd be so curious to know, be able to spend a little bit of time in their heads and work out exactly what the dynamics of this herd are and why it is that she's always loitering at the back. Even her calf has gone ahead. I mean, they do that. Elephants do split up. I'm just curious to know their thought patterns and the way that they communicate with each other. Something that I think we'll slowly gain more and more insight into. But a beautifully peaceful way to start the morning. I find that no matter what kind of mood I'm in, spending a little bit of time with an elephant herd is a wondrous way of regaining some perspective. Hey, big girl. They've got an overarching sense of peace and wisdom that comes with them, and a bit of tranquility thrown in there as well. You can see her tail swishing, as I said, when they're nice and relaxed and just feeding like this. There's always a little bit of movement to the tail. Even if it's just that gentle swinging motion. Now we're sitting, for those of you joining us for the first time, in one of the greatest wilderness areas of South Africa, in the Greater Kruger area. And Chris, who's watching us all the way from Australia, would like to know how many elephants there are in this entire area. Roughly, at an estimate, because you get differing opinions. You get people who tell you different answers depending on what you read. I'd say we're looking at somewhere in the region of about 13,000. Now, there are a lot of people that say that Kruger is overpopulated with elephants. I don't think so, personally. I think their numbers are pretty stable. Particularly now that we're coming into a drought season, a lot of the elephants, especially in the north, are going to die from lack of nutrients, which will be incredibly sad. But at least then the population is healthy enough to recover after that, if that drought does play out the way people are predicting it will. So you're looking at somewhere in the region of 13 to 15,000, depending on who you ask and which book you read. Going to leave our ellie herd for now. They've gone into the drainage line. And I know that drainage line of old. It's one of Karula's favorite hidey holes, and it's not easy to navigate. Let's go and investigate that hyena den. We're just around the corner from it anyway. Oh, and actually there's more elephants. Sure, big herd. Unless that's just a male following behind. Well, while we shift around, find another view of these elephants, let's head across to Brent and see what he's been up to.
So bad news, we did eventually find tracks of those two lioness crossing out of our traverse area. So we're going to head off to the east and check our eastern boundary next. I did spy some elephants in the distance as we're coming down the hill. Just up ahead here. So chilly this morning. After all that heat, I'm missing the heat. I've already got a blankie on. Always much rather be hot than cold. know they were around here when I saw them in the distance, heading that way. Oh, we had some inyala. Rain, who's 15 and from Ohio, would like to know, will the elephants get annoyed by the scent of the lions from yesterday? Unlikely, Rain. It's probably the scent's not so strong anymore. We had a little bit of drizzle last night, and that would have helped remove some of that scent, so they wouldn't be too phased. It would only be if they came across the lions very fresh that they would be upset, and generally then only if they had calves. The big male chasing the little boy. And you can see he's been digging his horns into the mud to try and make himself more impressive. Very nice big male inyala with his orange socks on. Look at this little boy here. He's trying to already practicing for when he's big. Rubbing his huge horns against that bush to try look intimidating. Yes, you're very intimidating. So you can see there's a young male. Eventually he will go dark chocolate brown like the adult. So there's one in limbo. So not quite as dark as an adult male yet, but getting there. And there we go. Oh, and look at that little glossy starling following, collecting any insects disturbed by the inyala. But let's continue on. There are the ellies coming out in front of us. Like the herders and the bull are crossing out of our traverse area. Hello, little man. Oh, can hear more elephants all around. Oh, little guy running and trumpeting up ahead like he's been left behind, or she's been left behind. Looks like a young female. Morning ablutions for this ellie. Oh, incoming them. I think this little female's lost her mom or lost the herd and having a bit of a panic. Let's go see. See, there is the rest of the herd through here. Very chilly welcome to Sarah from Ohio, who said she heard that elephant rumbles could be heard on the Richter scale. Is this true or not? Sarah, I have never heard that. I'm not sure. They do communicate in very low tones that is much lower than what we can hear. But whether it can be heard on the Richter scale or not, I'm afraid I do not know. There's the rest of the herd. Now moving off across our boundary into some thicker bush. And we're going to carry on and see what else we can find out here today. So we've checked the southern boundary. Now it's time to check the eastern boundary. So what I'm really hoping for is those wild dogs were to the east, but maybe they've come west. Matthew, who's from Appleton and 17 years old, is being very smart, and he's taking a break from his calculus homework to watch the LiveSafari. Good on you, Matt. Matt would like to know if it's necessary, or do we carry a rifle or a firearm on drive? We do not. And very simple reason for this is that we don't need to. Very few of the animals are actually out to get us, if any. And mostly when you get charged or anything, it's actually your mistake, not the animal's mistake. And none of us have any want to have to shoot any animals, so we don't carry any firearms with us on a drive. It's a bit different on foot. You have to be more cautious. And if we are tracking, we don't carry a firearm. But if we are doing the live walks, Steph is often behind us with a firearm. And it's because the cameramen have this huge backpack and long aerial on, so they're unable to sort of move quick enough to get out of the way. And it's just a precaution. And there's a very simple rule with firearms in the bush. Never walk somewhere you wouldn't walk without a firearm with a firearm. So if you're not prepared to walk there without a gun, you shouldn't walk there with a gun. It stops people from taking chances. Cruising the eastern boundary. Janet in San Diego would like to know, do the go-away birds migrate at this time of the year? She hasn't heard any or seen any in a few weeks. They don't, Janet, they're around. I'll try to show you one a little later if I spot one. But they are residents, so they don't migrate anywhere. Only tracks I'm seeing are those elephants we've just seen heading that way, heading back behind us. Waterbuck. So we've got a question from South Africa, from Kevin in Port Elizabeth. Welcome on the safari, Kevin. He says, great to go on live with us. Great to have you with us, Kevin. There's a little female waterbuck. There you go. Female waterbuck with that really distinct white bottom. That's a following mechanism. So Kevin is wondering and is very surprised that we drive off-road and would like to know what is the reason for this. Well, Kevin, the main reason is so we can get closer to the animals, of course, and have the best sightings possible. One of the reasons this is allowed, we operate on private property, but even in the national parks, in the private concessions, off-roading is allowed. And the reason for this is that all the guides and whatnot, they have quite a lot of experience, and we know which trees you can drive over and which you can't. And so you don't drive over slow-growing trees. And you'll find most private reserves in southern Africa, you are able to off-road and operate a spotlight at night. And I've worked in private concessions in the Kruger. We are able to do the same as well. Obviously, the reason it's not available sort of to the public in national parks and that is there'd be too many vehicles off-roading, and with people who are not really aware of what soils you shouldn't drive on or what trees you shouldn't drive over. But it is very lucky to be able to off-road. It means we are able to follow animals hunting like lions and leopards and wild dogs. And we avoid sodic sites and seep lines. There we go, there's a juvenile battalier. So it actually takes a battalier up to 8 years to get that beautiful adult colouring. Until then, they're sort of quite brown, drab, prairie looking eagles. And quite often they look quite bedraggled in that process of changing the feathers. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm hoping the wild dogs have come from the east. And Anna-Marie was wondering whether they've been sighted. They were sighted yesterday, Anna-Marie, in the morning, and no one's seen them since, but they were quite far to the east. And I'm hoping they've come west. That's why I'm checking this boundary very slowly, see if we can get some wild dog tracks. Chatting about resident and migrant birds, and Raisa in Finland. Morning, Raisa. Says she hasn't seen any mouse birds yet this year. Have I? I have. I've seen quite a few. Another one I'll try to keep a lookout for you. Might not see too many of them in this weather, but they are around. And as soon as some of the trees start fruiting, we'll definitely see more of them in flocks. Check those junctions of roads very carefully for tracks. Thought I heard an alarm call. Just going to keep quiet for a second. And yeah, it sounded like a solitary impala snort. Waiting to hear if there's a bit more. Impala, sometimes there's the impala, well spotted VM. Move forward a bit, see. Tail wagging, quite relaxed. Maybe just got a whiff of something on the wind. Others. They all look more relaxed. Let's carry on. Ooh, we're off to see one of the most endangered bird species in southern Africa with Jamie.
Look what we found. Well, actually what Andrew found, if I'm completely honest about that. This male ground hornbill. Oh, they are spectacular birds. Look at the power in that beak. Fearsome hunter of snakes and rodents and frogs alike. and one of the most critically endangered species that you can see out here. Amazing to think that you're looking at one of only about 1,400 individual birds in the world. So critically endangered. They're big, about the size of a turkey, and in Kruger have something of a reputation for pecking cars. They get very territorial. But look at that incredible pouch around his neck. It's breeding season for these ground hornbill. I love that strut. Such extraordinary, extraordinary birds. I think it is supposition, but I think this is the male that we've been seeing on Arethusa as well. Usually you see them in family groups, but I think this is a male on the search for a breeding opportunity, or a lady. Where are you going to go, mister? Now this is one animal where human beings, because we have played such a large role in their species reduction in numbers and the level of endangerment, one animal that has an exceptionally high level of human interference. Let's do this carefully. Just think about this for one moment. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Which way are you going to go? He's changing his mind. So in the area that I used to work at, what we would do is, with the ground hornbills, because they're so critically endangered, ground hornbills have 2 babies at a time. They lay 2 eggs at a time. But the second one doesn't survive. It's essentially an insurance policy in case the first egg doesn't hatch. When the second egg does hatch, it's outcompeted by the older sibling, and thus seriously struggles in life. So what the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project does is, once the first egg is hatched, it's okay, boy, it's all right, boy. Oh, he's got something. If I get any closer, he's going to fly away, so we just have to deal with our view for now. He's found something that he's feeding on. So anyway, so what the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project does is, it takes the second egg once the first egg has hatched, and they are hand-raised, but hand-raised in a way that they don't imprint on humans and can be released back into the wild, raised with puppets and then other ground hornbills. But that is a level of interference that isn't all that common out here. Heather, I know you were wondering whether we ever obtain medical treatment for the creatures out here. It does happen every now and again, particularly for critically endangered animals such as wild dogs, cheetahs and rhino, and ground hornbill as well. That being said, it only really occurs when an injury is human-induced, or whatever's wrong with the animal has come from a human source. For example, maybe a snare that's come from bushmeat poaching, possibly poisoning. That's where medical intervention does occur. But other than that, the general approach is to let nature take its course in whatever way, shape or form that takes. Thus, if you ever find yourself in the Kruger National Park and you see a ground hornbill, there are notices all over the place requesting you to report them. And one thing that they do is they put bands around their legs. I know that Chris Rogue, you were asking about that, and yes, they do. For the purposes of scientific research, they will mark and ring different hornbill groups. I'm going to try to get us onto the road. I haven't seen the ring on this one. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. As soon as we get a nice clear view, I'll have a look and see if it's got a ring around its foot. And one thing we do at WildEarth as well is we report all sightings of things like ground hornbills for Panthera and other research purposes. Now, the reason I didn't want to push any closer was because, yes, Karula, they can fly. They're predominantly ground-based species, but they nest high up in hollows of big trees. So they are more than capable of flying and covering large distances. It's quite a ponderous flight because they're heavy birds, which is why I didn't want to push too much closer through the bushes, because he will just leave us. Where did you go, boy? There you are. So males and females for when you do your next trip or see your next hornbill to report to the scientists. The females have a blue patch under their chin that the males lack. Now this bird will have taken 7 years to reach sexual maturity and start heading out on his own to look for breeding opportunities. One of the reasons that they are so critically endangered, they have a very long life cycle. I'll give him some space so that he doesn't disappear on us. One of the most amazing calls of any bird out here. What did you just munch? Dung beetle. Dung beetle just went down the hatch. Raisa, I agree. I always enjoy seeing a ground hornbill. Especially when you think about how critically endangered they are. The fact that there are 1,400 of them in the world actually equates to maybe 300 pairs. Oh, and Brent has a spotted cat. Let's head across to him.
Welcome back, guys. So what that impala obviously smelt or heard was a leopard. Aubrey was just behind us and he's managed to spot it there. I'm not sure who it is yet. We've just arrived and it looks like Karula from what I can see. So a big thank you to Aubrey and William for finding the leopard for us. It's amazing what a difference 5 minutes can make when you're moving through the bush. Right on the boundary, so hopefully she keeps this direction and doesn't head any further east. Nice work for him. Stop now. I'm trying to see where she is. She's in the thicket here. You see the spots. I'm trying to make maybe a little bit to the right here. It's amazing. I can see her with my eyes, but you got a camera can't. Oh, she's moving again. we are watching a female leopard live in the African bush. Many of our viewers, the queen of Djuma, Karula, she's our dominant female in this area. Oh, there she is. Looks like she's on the hunt. Just to keep you guys updated, also the wild dogs have been found to the east of us, outside of our traverse zone, unfortunately. But the great thing about wild dogs is they can change their direction very quickly and they cover huge distance. She's just climbed up to the top of that termite mound. There we go. Using the height to check. She's being very nice and walking parallel with the road, so we're able to watch her hunt from a little bit of a distance away. And hopefully, in this windy weather, she'll get some success. Obviously, those impalas spotted or smelt her earlier. It was quite strange because we only heard one little alarm call, and then they didn't call again, so which makes me think they just caught her scent and they didn't actually see her. She's seen something. Oh no, she just jogged down the hill. It looked like she might have seen something because she sped up. Morning, morning, morning. She's right in front there. Yeah, perfect. So she's going to come up out into the slightly more open area now. You got her there? Ah, there you go. She's still on the move. Okay, got her there now. She should be coming up to this gap shortly. There she is. See how she uses every little available bit of height to climb and check ahead. She's stopping, she's listening. She could be listening for those little contact calls between baby impala and their mothers. At this time of the year, baby impala make up a huge part of a leopard's diet. Might be going a little bit further north, which is good for us. Which means she's going deeper into Djuma and further away from the boundary. And that's a good thing. Question a bit earlier from Kevin saying notice that we off-road. So Kevin, without being able to off-road, we'd never be able to follow the animals like we do and get in the position to show you the best safari possible. And the Queen Karula. And she looks like she has fed, but not very recently, so she's definitely on the hunt. So you're going to notice here she's going to come up this termite mound, and then she'll keep her head just below the top, although she's doing it behind the bush. There we go, you see that? So she doesn't break the profile of the top of the termite mound. So as she pops her head up, if an impala or something happened to glance, it would look like one of the peaks of the termite mound. And it also gives her a bit of extra height to survey the land in front of her. She's listening, looking. And you'll find a lot of leopards will actually move termite mound to termite mound, checking for potential prey. So our ears are constantly moving around. How are you this morning, Anne? Oh, there she's off again. Karula. So there are often quite a lot of impala in this area, so fingers crossed she finds some. So she always stops, listens, checks. And she's not only using her eyes, but her ears, and sometimes her smell as well. You know, she's smelling something now. A nice, cool, windy morning, good for hunting for her. The wind sometimes confuses her potential prey. And she could be smelling or looking for one of her favorite prey species, which is steenbok, a little antelope, and they live in very small territories of about 4 acres. Okay, let's move on. Let's go. So we're going to go back to Jamie with that ground hornbill quickly while I try to loop around to get in front of her again.
We're still with our incredible bird, now that you've had that short but wonderful time with Karula. We've been sticking with this particular male. Oh, they're beautiful. They are such striking birds. Look at those eyes and the eyelashes. Oh, spotted something. Oh, false alarm. No, we've chatted about this before, and the fact that hornbills, in terms of common sense, sometimes lack a little bit, and they very often attack their reflections. And that goes for all of the hornbill family, yellow-billed, red-billed, They're quite aggressive and territorial birds. But when you are the size of a turkey with a powerful beak that's built for snake killing, that means that the windows that they attack get smashed. And that's one of the reasons for their slow decline in population. It's interesting that he's chosen to hang around this area. Usually you find ground hornbills, they love to nest in really big marulas or jackalberries, something with a nice high cavity that's big enough for them to be able to feed their chicks. You usually find them around riverine areas. It's nice that we've got this particular one foraging around here. So once they reach adulthood, they'll usually stick with their families for a while, which is why you often see them in family groups. They're cooperative breeders, which means that the adult offspring will spend time with their families trying to help raise the chicks of the next year's brood. But they're very particular about their nesting sites, and they return there year in and year out. What you going to do, mister? He's proving to be very tricky to predict in terms of where he's going to go. Move into more dense vegetation. Let's try and stick with him. It's not often we get the opportunity to really watch a ground hornbill go about its daily business. While we loop around to find him, Brent has very cleverly managed to relocate Karula. Let's head across there.
So atop another termite mound, decided to take a little break, but still incredibly alert. I think she will move again. And guys, don't forget to get some screenshots and share them on our Facebook page, Safari Live, or share them on Twitter using the hashtag Safari Live. I'm going to do the same. And that's that clicking noise. And beautiful profile. Ears up and alert. So, comment from Natasha, the beautiful queen is on a mission to fill her tummy. I agree with you, Natasha. So nice that it's quite cool this morning, so she's super active and alert. Listening really carefully. So, a very good morning to Jaden, who is watching via YouTube and is a new viewer. Welcome, Jaden, to the Safari Live family. And Jaden says, isn't it amazing how she's ignoring the humans? Well, Jaden, to her, the vehicles don't really represent humans. They smell like petrol and oil and whatnot, and they've only been around for 100 years, so she doesn't have an instinctive response to them. And if you drive carefully and considerately, and you are able to follow a leopard going about its daily business. If you're on foot, it would be a slightly different story. They recognize the bipedal figure of man as a dominant diurnal predator, and normally try to slink away from you. also nice to have the Queen of Juma back regularly. There was a couple of months where we didn't see her too regularly. She seemed to spend more time in the east and in the north. Good area for her to hunt in, sort of broken mixed woodland, lots of sort of spots of cover, and this particular area has got quite a lot of duiker and steenbok in, which are two of her favorite foods. Also, I'm sure she'll be looking for baby impala. A little bit of preening. A bit of de-fleeing or de-ticking. Even a leopard, which is quite a cleanly cat, has often a high number of ticks and fleas and other ectoparasites. Well, Jenny would like to know if any of the vehicles would interrupt Karula's hunting anyway. Generally not, Jenny, but inadvertently sometimes it does. But obviously all of us here try and make sure we interrupt her as little as possible. But sometimes by accident you can interrupt her, but it is definitely not the norm. And she has been followed by safari vehicles since she was a couple of weeks old. So she's very used to them being around her. And Sabi Sands leopards have been known to actually use the trucks to their advantage when hunting, using them as a cover to stalk behind. This is very normal big cat behavior. Move, 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 lie down, wait, get up again, move, 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 and then lie down and wait. And on a cool morning like this, I'm quite sure she is going to move again shortly. Renee would like to know if there's ever been a record of female leopards not being able to have cubs. I'm sure there has been, Renee. I can't think of one offhand. I'm sure. She's listening intently. I wonder, it'd be amazing to be able to hear like a leopard, pick up all the other sounds. Obviously their hearing is infinitely better than ours. Absolutely stunning animal. She's obviously picking up a whole bunch of signals we're not getting. Sound, smells. You can see wind gusting around her, the grass moving. So even though she's stationary now, she still is very alert, so it's not like she's going to go to sleep just yet. So Ellen in Arkansas would like to know whether leopards and other animals will climb up onto a termite mound to get the warmth that is coming out of it. For those of you not sure, termites like to keep their inside of their mounds at about 32 degrees Celsius. It's the optimum temperature for growing fungus, and that's obviously the fungus growing termites. And she'd like to know whether this mound is active. I'm just going to have a quick look in my binos at that. Yes, this one is active. You can see just to the right of her, there's been some new buildings. And how they keep the termite mounds at that temperature that's optimum is by opening and closing different vents on the mound. So you can see that vent's open there to the right of her. So while we wait for the queen to get moving again, let's go see what Jamie's got.
Guys, we've got such a cool scenario playing out here. That is an African harrier hawk surrounded by 5-6 drongos, all thoroughly disgruntled with its presence. So the African harrier hawk is famed for stealing other birds' nests and chicks, raiding them. It's got special legs. Look at them go, they're mobbing him. And drongos are famously aggressive birds. Come on. Shame. And he's desperately trying to ignore them. He was flying until the flock of about 7 or 8 of them descended upon him. Look how cross he is. Feathers ruffled in the wind, starting to flush red around the face in agitation. Seriously not impressed. Look at that red flush. That face is usually yellow, but in response to the actions of the drongos, he's starting to flush. They've got double jointed legs that bend backwards to make raiding nest holes even easier, which is why the drongos are so seriously unimpressed with his presence. Swooping in, essentially trying to irritate it. An incredible sighting, but Karula is up and about. Let's head back there.
It's on the move again. Position to follow again. I think. Okay, there she is. We smelled something in there. She might have found a spot where there could be some rodents. And leopards are great opportunists with such a varied diet. They'll eat everything from insects to large mammals. Look at her move, and she moves so quietly. Stopped up ahead. Oh, she's off again. Let's see where she's going before I decide which route to pick through the bush. Look at that, her tail's up. There was a little rattling testicular that just alarmed at her. It's sort of a signal with leopards if they're not going to try eat whatever's alarming at them. The tail goes quite high up in the air. Stopped on a log, using it to get a little bit of extra height. I'm just going to try to get us through the gap. How's that, Goldie? There she is. Not the best area. Watch out there, VM. It's always important to try to pick your routes through the bush. Obviously, she can pick and choose her way a lot easier than we can. Coming up to a road now, whether she decides to walk on the road or carry on through the bush. Oh, she's gone straight across the road. Andrew? Morning. Very well in yourself. Hello everyone.
Probably
she stopped and listening again.
She walk and she listen. There's a chance that engine is off. She's also listening around.
Off she carries on. Fortunately heading deeper into Djuma, not towards the boundary. Watch out there, Vam. Sorry guys, just going to be on the radio for a second. Oh, she's going into a terrible monkey orange thicket, so I'm going to try and keep on the edge of it. Tax. Tax, come along Drakensberg. She's cut slightly more west and is heading down towards Drakensberg. One of the nice things about having these short wheelbase vehicles, we're able to dip through little gaps like that the longer game drive vehicles wouldn't be able to. Still see her there? Oh, there she is, right here. I think she's looking for Dike or Steenbok in this area. Just the way she's zigzagging. FM Andrew still moving sort of west. Tax closer to Drakensberg now. She's just stationary at the moment on a log, but I think she's going to keep moving almost directly to that junction. I would say stay at Drakensberg for now. She's in the middle of this monkey orange thicket, but she is moving now almost more southwest towards that junction, Drakensberg Central. Hi, Frim. Okay. She's heading now down towards the road. I don't know if you've got my vehicle audio. Lots of these little monkey orange thickets that she's zigzagging through, hoping to surprise a steenbok or a duiker. You can see how she just melts into the bush. Taking us through these terrible thickets. They sound a lot worse than they are. These little monkey oranges just spring back once you go over them. Very tough little bush. So I apologize for the noise, but it's one of the things when you're following an animal off the road, and I think there's a strong possibility if we stay with her, she's going to find a steenbok or a duiker. So just bear with me for a little bit with the noise. Drive over trees, we straddle them, we keep them in the middle so they pop up. We don't use the tires to push them down. Taxi, you got my visual? She's heading straight for you. Okay, so she's going to come out onto the road again. Oh, there's a hole. Jenny would like to know, is there a specific or particular reason why we track big cats? I'm not going to be able to get through there. I'm going to have to go around those fallen trees. Well, Jenny, it's because they're quite often the most sought after of the animals to see. and people have fascination with predators. And I'm going to have to duck under this one. I'm going to hopefully pass it up slowly. Very good. There we go. Jenny, so it's because people also have a fascination with predators. And it is great to be able to follow them and have a look at their sort of secret lives. And we're fortunate enough that we spend so much time with them. You actually get to know quite a bit about the history and habits of these cats. Christopher from Arizona would like to know, do I think that the leopards recognize all the different guides as individuals, or do they just view humans as all the same? Christopher, I'm going to say I think they think all people are the same. I don't think they see any of us as individuals. I know certain people might disagree with me, but I've spent a long time in the bush following animals in lots of different countries, and I really don't think they recognize us as individuals at all. Where is she gone? There she is. There we go. And you can see she's zigzagging through this area, definitely hunting. So she's gone north, south, east, west, keeps changing her mind today. And it's a good sign that she's hunting. I think she's looking for, as I said, steenbok and duiker in this area.
The weather's allowing them.
Yeah, nice, cool, windy weather. Good for hunting if you're a leopard. Thoroughly unpleasant if you're me and really don't like the cold. Right into this very thick area here on our right, but we've still got a nice visual of her from the road. reason she's going from these little thickets to thickets is that in this cool weather, the Steenbok and Duiker might be by resting and sleeping. So she's trying to find one of them. Again. And so Duiker and Steenbok would lie up possibly in these little thickets in this cold weather. Let's go around. Try to get up ahead of her where it's a bit more open. How's that, Graham? Maybe a bit forward. She's being very kind at the moment, but if she goes any further to the west, it's a very challenging area for us to follow her. A little bit of scent marking. Even if you're hungry and hunting, oh look at her, she's going up the tree. Almost looks like she's looking for squirrels. Might be hunting squirrels. As she went up, she was sniffing all the little holes. Down again. See, there we go, stopping and sniffing those holes again. And a little scent mark on the way out. So a big warm Safari Live welcome to I Am Miner, who's a new viewer. I Am Miner would like to know why the noise of the vehicles doesn't scare off this leopard. Well, this leopard's grown up with the vehicles, so from a very young age she's been exposed to a vehicle. Vehicles are only been around for about 100 years, so she doesn't have an instinctive response to them. They don't smell like anything dangerous or anything to eat. They smell like petrol and oil. So she's not perturbed at all. You can see she treats the vehicle with complete disdain and ignores us. Let's see if we can find a gap to get through to keep up with her. She is going west, and this is a difficult block, even for us in our little car. Watch the thorns on the left there. Yep. Another nice little gap, but we were able to follow. Oh dear. One of the biggest problems which makes this block so difficult to follow animals through is the fact that there's quite a lot of young knob thorns in here, and the elephants have pushed a lot of them over, which makes it very difficult to follow. As you can see, everywhere we look, just pushed over trees, pushed over by the ellies. Oh, hello. Ciao, baby. Copy, thanks, Tax. She might change her direction. Apparently, Tax can see some elephants ahead of her. We will try our best to stay with her, but we might lose her in this area. She's sitting down, listening. And there might be something just ahead that we can't see. Looks like she might have heard something. Watch how her body language has changed. Firm. She's just looks like she started to show interest in something. I can't see what it is though. You should get Tax's visual from the road if you keep coming on Drakensberg.
At the audio?
Yeah. So the elephants are just near where Taxon is, just to the south of us. Copy, thanks. Like she's busy stalking something. I can't see what it is. So they could be impala, it could be a nyala, could be a dyke, it could be a stenbok, but you can see how her body language has changed completely. Look at her, look how she'll put her feet exact, look at that. She'll put her back foot front exactly the same place as her front foot. She has chosen the worst area for us to follow her. Look at that. she's moved, we're going to try and get into the position where we might be able to see. Now that we're not directly behind her, we won't affect. Watch out for the thorns that side there. Okay, she's disappeared. Oh, there's some. Let's see. I'm going to jump over the branch. Fun. So elephants have broken down so much bush here, it makes it very difficult. I think she's after a scrub hare in this. She gave up the scrub hare, ran away. Hello, madam. There she goes. She's looking towards where the ellies are. She's going to test my driving skills again. She goes through there, so we're still with her. Keeping up with her is going to be quite the challenge. Almost going through a little archway here. Oh boy. Don't go that way, madam. We're going to try stay with her. She is taking us through an interesting area, let's call it that. I've lost sight of her. Just give me a second. Do you see anything? Where she disappeared? There she is. Just make out her rosettes through the bush. FM tax, we've still got visual. Sort of southwest, but she's stationary at the moment, just sniffing around. Can you hear the little bird alarm calls all around that have spotted her? Where are you going, madam? She's coming back out. Well, hello Bead Window, a new viewer on YouTube. Yes, this is live, and that is a leopard, and you're on safari in Africa. Oh, she's been spotted by the squirrels now. You hear them alarm calling at her. Ow, 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 ow. Oh, thorns in my back. Okay, madam, how am I going to get through this now? Watch that canvas there. Oh, dear me, dear me. Are we going to fit through this little gap? Yeah, give that little. Okay. Sorry guys, it's going to be on the radio. Standing by. From central Drakensberg, maybe go down central 100 meters or so. She is moving now south towards central. I'll try to stay with her. It's a very, very thick block there. The longer game drive vehicles aren't able to go through these really thick areas like we are. So we are just sort of sneaking our way between tiny little gaps at the moment, trying to stay with the Queen of Juma on the hunt. Deary me. Careful on the right here, I'm going to have to go really slowly through this. I can't see a way to avoid it. This is thorns. I'm just going to go very slowly. I'm going to try to lift this over carefully without impaling myself, but you can get out of here. Okay. Careful, careful. Good. Slowly, slowly. Okay, we're going to go across to Jamie while we try and get ourselves out of this thorny predicament, but we'll be right back. Hopefully we haven't lost her in the meantime.
There we go, one of the surviving members of the wildebeest herd. Little one dashing off with mom. They are so on edge. We've seen 3 different mothers with 3 different calves, while you were with Brent and the wonderful Karula, all separate from each other and all very, very skittish. It's also windy, it's cloudy, so that adds to it, but I think that they are somewhat traumatized by the events of the other night and the attack of the 2 Styx lionesses. I'm not even going to try and stick with those 2. They are so nervous that we won't be able to keep up with them. We've made our way onto Arathusa to see what's happening around here. Andrew and I have spent quite a significant portion of our morning on our private safari chasing impala alarm calls, but every time it's just been the males rutting with the females, or attempting to, or chasing other males away. They're very, very vocal at the moment. interesting, just to finish off that harrier hawk sighting that we had earlier. They chased the harrier hawk away, and all of the birds sort of congregated. There was a lilac-breasted roller that was mobbing it, a grey hornbill, which I've never ever seen before, and several drongos, and they all gathered together and sort of sat and called in the trees for a while. And then for some reason that I absolutely do not understand, the drongos started mobbing the grey hornbill. Never seen that. I don't know why. As far as I know, there's no kind of threat coming from a grey hornbill. Hello. I can actually see her head sticking out. Well done, Andrew. Hello, guys. They've probably only just decided to emerge now, just because it's so chilly this morning. Andrew and I have been shivering as we drive along. And I imagine that these little guys have been feeling much the same. They're quite happy to sleep in when it's chilly like this. Looking for breakfast now. Hey, little mongoose. Maybe back to bed, thinking about it. Where's the rest of your group? Looking around, seeing if I can spot any others. And there's also a lilac-breasted roller. That was the call. They've got an incredibly, for a beautiful bird, they've got an incredibly harsh, almost ugly call. It's from a beautiful bird to a beautiful cat. Brent is still with Karula, so let's pop back across there.
So we lost her for a little bit there, but we've managed to catch up with her. Unfortunately, she is heading towards an area I'm not even going to attempt to drive through. We look up ahead here. It's just a mass of fallen trees. We will try to keep parallel to her though, for as long as we can. Now where to? There she is there. I don't know where we're going to be able to go from here. Might be able to sneak through there. Hang on, I just got to be on the Game Live radio for a second. Oh, look at that white-crowned shrike attacking her. I just had a brief visual of someone's vehicle. I'm not sure whose. We're directly opposite whoever is. It sounds like further to the east on Central. If you hear that white-crowned shrike alarming, and that's where we are. FM. So there's that shrike that's alarm calling at Karula. Even did a quick dive bomb of her. Okay. Now, next challenge is to get through this little spot. We make it. How are we that side, VM? So, there she is. Hello, madam. Neon Tiger, who's another new viewer, welcome. Says she looks like a cheetah. What's the difference? Well, you can see a leopard has rosettes. Oh, she's on the stalk again. Her shoulder just changed. Has she seen something that we haven't? Maybe not. Standing up again. Oh dear. She really is taking us through some interesting country this morning. I plan my next maneuver depending on where she goes. I'm trying to see if there's like she might have heard or smelled something. She is really giving us the difficult area to work through. She's moving quite fast. Well spotted. I've lost visual of her now. There she is. Good spot, VM. Right through the middle of these thickets. Try and get round. Watch the thorns on the left here. Oh, firm, she's right in the center of all those fallen down knob thorns at the moment. She looks like she saw something. No sign of her. Last place we saw her was right in the middle of these thickets. Right, here we go. So Craig's got her. She's popped out onto the road. Thankfully, hopefully she stays on the road for a bit. I could do with some restful driving. Get very big forearms at this rate going through this bush. Onto the road. Oh, that was fun. Some technical driving this morning. can't see her at the moment. Craig, you still have visual? Let's go check that termite mound. Maybe that's a good spot. She likes sitting on top of those. Yeah, this is possibly one of the worst areas to follow a leopard in the whole of Juma. Trying to... You got it? Oh, look at that. VM's just spotted her tail. On the back side of the termite mound, you can just see her tail sticking up on the right-hand side there. Let me just move. I'll move quickly for you. Yeah. Look at that. Well spotted, VM.
Where the fallen tree is, the back of the termite mound, there's a little white tip.
Yep.
Yeah. You see a tail?
I see it.
Good spot, VM. So we thought she might have moved to a termite mound. While we've been following her this morning, she's made her way from termite mound to termite mound.
Can you see the little white tip of the tail?
I'm going to try and move around. Try and get these. Let's try and find a spot. Ooh, there's a big stump behind us. That's not going to work. Yeah, just in case she moves through. So we're just going to try and preempt her next move. Let's see if we can see her from the front. There's Tax, doing the same as we are. There she is. Try to get you a gap. How's that, Tim? Not the world's best gap. Trying to find a gap. Right, there's a gap coming, I think. No. Maybe. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to wait where we can see her. It's very thick in there, and I'm pretty sure she's going to come down, so we'll get you a few rosettes through the bush. Oh, look, yeah, I think she's going to move. Yeah, and she's on the move again. FM. She's mobile down towards the road. So X-Rang is saying, if I don't have a puncture, I'm a very lucky individual. While X-Ranger, I get the least punches out of everyone, and I off-road the most. I just know where to put my tires. I watch a little bit more carefully, and which trees to drive over and which not to. Because there's nothing fun about changing flat tires. It's just that I've removed my earpiece somehow. try now. Oh, there we go. She's moving parallel to the road here. I'm just going to let... There we go. Just going to go right past Tax. Just going to let Craig go in front of me. He's been dying to get a good visual of her and hasn't been able to yet. She's changed direction again, coming back this way. This is what makes Karula the most difficult female leopard in this area to track on foot. She changes direction so often. So there she goes. I mean, she was going north all morning, now she's going south, and she went west for a bit as well. Ideal sort of area for it to hunt, lots of broken cover. So leopards are ambush predators. They'll generally stalk within up to about 5 meters and then pounce. And that when they do pounce, they pounce at about 24 meters per second. It's around 90 kilometers an hour. So as we just going to hang back a little bit and let the other vehicles have a good view. We've had such a fantastic time and spent the whole morning with her. So I'm just going to let the guests from the other lodges have a good view. We're not leaving, but we might not have the best visuals of her for the next bit. And so while we let them get a visual, if anything exciting happens, we'll be right back. Let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Well, Andrew and I continue on our private safari. Andrew has come up with, I think, one of the best games to play in the bush ever. So Andrew and I have been discussing, whilst looking at various members of general game and animals, what music, what type or genre of music each animal would listen to. So we're in total agreement that elephants would be listening to classical music. There would be Beethoven lovers and Mozart and Haydn, maybe the odd Wagner lover and some old bull. One old bull. We're still trying to figure out the rest. What did we go with for monkeys? The Beatles. We decided that, yeah, monkeys like the Beatles. Kudu like sort of indie style music. And it's a fun game. See if you guys can think of some really interesting options, because we've had a great time. I've decided definitely hippos listen to old school jazz and old school blues. No question in my mind that that's how that works. Fun game to play. What did we say giraffe were again? Giraffe were... Wild dogs were sort of definitely some kind of electronic trance music. Something hyped up with high energy.
Impalas with Spice Girls.
Oh yes, Impalas with Spice Girls.
Britney Spears.
Or Britney Spears. What was the other one? Oh, the Birmingham boys were listening to proper gangster music.
Gangster hip-hop.
Yeah, gangster hip-hop, cruising the area, being the big deals. Oh, Indian miners, you don't belong here. One of the most invasive and damaging species to enter South Africa, the Indian myna. They are prolifically resilient. Part of the starling family, but not a native member of South Africa.
I love them. I don't know why.
Andrew loves them.
Maybe not a good thing.
I'm not a huge fan. The one thing that all places have is a mixture of local and folklore and legends. And Siberia Zumi was asking a little bit about them, since we're looking at creatures that do not belong. You were wondering whether there's any rumors of something like Sasquatch or Bigfoot or anything like that. Probably the most commonly believed myth or legend is that of the Tokolosh, which is a meter-high man who wanders around and kidnaps ladies and does terrible things to them at night, which is why a lot of the local people have their beds up on bricks around here. That's thought to distract the Tokolosh. I, of course, don't believe in such things, but I did actually once in an old farmhouse. I was walking down the corridors where I used to live, was in an old 50-year-old farmhouse, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye. To this day, I still don't know what it was. I mean, I must have been half asleep and dreaming. But I told everybody about it as a joke the next day, and all of the sort of local staff members went into an absolute panic that I'd seen a Tokolosh and that it was time to cleanse the house. That's probably the biggest legend out here. There's a couple of malevolent spirits that are part of myths and legends. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but they supposedly inhabit the sort of rock crevices. And you read stories about people, even people who don't believe in that sort of thing, driving past and getting a really sinister feeling about a space. I've stopped to see if I can hear any blues or jazz beats coming from the hippos at the dam. So far. Hello, Grey Heron.
What's he listening to?
What is he listening to? Ooh, that's it. Handel's water music.
Maybe a bit of Enya.
Oh, Enya, yes, I like that. Singing Say No Way in its head. Yes, there we go. Gretchen, I agree. Zebras would be listening to punk. There is just boundless options for this new game of ours. I think Andrew is a genius. Hello, Hippo. How's the blues going? Old school jazz. Aretha Franklin. They probably actually have the warmest spot today. The wind is howling, the drizzle is drizzling. They're safe and ensconced in their nice warm dam. It's the place to be this morning. Brrr, cold. Shell and Jerry, I agree. We were discussing what hyenas would be earlier, and you suggested heavy rock. I went with a South African band known as Die Antwoord. That was my thought as to hyenas listening material. Especially with those creepy smiles of theirs and the giggling sounds they make, I think it would fit right in. What else could we have? Yes, I like that. Giraffe love Taylor Swift. That's exactly right. Blacksmith lapwings? Something with percussion and rhythm. But yes, Sean, giraffe and Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. I like that. What would be into boy bands and Justin Bieber and One Direction and all of that? I'm trying to think.
Maybe little steenbokkie.
Steenbokkies, yes. Perfect. Now in my head, that lapwing is a Rolling Stones fan.
I was gonna say Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley. That also works. I can see it. Hey, I think Barbara's got it right. Rhino and Elvis. Oh, the images in my head are hilarious. Picturing rhinos singing Suspicious Minds and Hound. Actually, the Hound Dog is the funniest one. Or Jailhouse Rock. Andrew, you have inspired. Here's our Gosling family. Good point. Joel in Oregon. Somebody's got to listen to local African music. Nyala like traditional African music and sometimes break into Johnny Clegg every now and again when they're feeling adventurous. Oh, I didn't think of Buffalo. Buffalo is also an option. Buffalo singing Shaw Shaloza as they walk together in a herd. I thought about Bob Marley. I somehow thought about baboons when I thought about Bob Marley, just because they always look so laid back. Not that we see them all that often here, but when you do see them and they're sitting in trees, you can just imagine them whistling away to some Rasta tunes. And kingfishers also got to be something girly, the way that they whistle like they do. Oh well, quick check-in at Arathusa Dam and some music. That's a nice one. So when you next see Karula on her hunting missions, she's listening to Mission Impossible, the Mission Impossible theme tune. I like that. I also think there's a possibility for an Indiana Jones link there as well. Some old school John Williams soundtrack. Oh, now we need some sort of Hans Zimmer soundtrack, listeners. Pirates of the Caribbean style. Oh, fun game. Fun game to play. I like the idea of the Mission Impossible. I was struggling with leopards. So snakes. Donna says snakes love flute music. It is the way forward as they slither along. Ah, now chameleons in my head with their eyes facing in opposite directions and looking a little bit out of it. I think we're looking at some Woodstock era music, possibly a little bit of Simon Garfunkel, maybe a bit of Jimi Hendrix on the side. Boundless, endless entertainment potential here. Michael, very clever. The wildebeest love the song "The Lions Sleep Tonight." Oh, that's funny. That's very clever. What? This is to Eye of the Tiger. tiger. Yeah, tiger listens to Eye of the Tiger. Aww. Judy. Agreed. All creatures in the bush love to listen to Mr. James, the wonderful, incredibly talented Mr. James Henry. He will be back amongst us to supplement our numbers by tomorrow sometime. That's absolutely true. Everybody loves James Henry. Most especially the WildEarth team. James Henry and his magical guitar.
Are vultures listening to Marilyn Manson?
Yes. Perfect. Vultures listen to Marilyn. Oh, marabous and vultures. Marabous and vultures listen to Marilyn Manson. What other? And Chris Rogue. Crocodiles listen to Elton John's Crocodile Rock. Oh, what else can I think of? What do dwarf mongoose listen to? They've got to have something high-pitched and squeaky. Justin Bieber? Okay, be careful what I say. Well, on a quiet morning, we've had an amazing... There's our Spice Girls audience. Quite deep in the block, though. And of course, now that I want to, I can't think of one Spice Girls song. Zelda. Dung beetles would be fans of the Rolling Stones. Yep, absolutely. I concur with that 100%. And then you need something for the big eagles, like the fish eagles. Jerry and I are on the same page. Jerry, one of our WildEarth APs and occasional director. Jerry has suggested that mongoose listen to One Direction. Agreed. You and I are on the same page. I'm not entirely sure what page that is. I think it's bordering on manic. But we're having a great time. What other animals haven't we done? Did we see?
Warthog.
Warthog. Ooh. Warthogs are a tricky one. Yeah. Disney songs. Kirsty disagrees. Kirsty thinks that they listen to classical music. I don't know. I think... Yeah, I guess maybe. Classical with lots of brass. Lots of trombones. Possibly Prokofiev. Or Stravinsky. Yes, actually no, Kirsty, I agree with you. That surprising level of intelligence and depth. And I think big birds of prey that soar have to have something sort of really grand and dramatic for their soundtrack.
Maybe like Celine Dion.
Celine Dion? Yes. Celine Dion. Lots of high and sustained notes. Somebody's got to listen to Broadway musicals. Oh, I could listen to Broadway musicals. maybe kudu could fall into that category, although I think we've already covered them. Well, anyway, just something for you to... Scott, everybody's getting involved now. Scott has suggested that buffalo bulls listen to reggae. Also suits them really well when they're wallowing in the mud. And now that we've said that, those of you who are watching the show, I bet you won't be able to unhear that. Every time you see a buffalo bull wallowing in a pan, next sighting I'm just going to very softly sing reggae songs while we watch buffalo. Very clever. Inge says that squirrels love the nutcracker. A bit of Tchaikovsky in the morning. Hello, Giraffe. What are you listening to? Yes. Well done, James Richard. Lilac-breasted rollers listen to Lady Gaga. Hello, boy. Or girl. Girl with a missing ossicone. Oh, no, not missing, just bent. Look at those cheeks. That is a very full mouth. Listening to Taylor Swift and ruminating. Hey, girl. That was a serious mouthful that you had there. Unless her cheeks are swollen. Taylor Swift just hit a high note. Stopped her chewing for the moment. Carrying on. Now that bent ossicone could have been a growth defect. Might have been just a little bit of a damage done to her when she was young and growing up. Could also be that she collided with a tree. Of course, those ossicones are bone, so they can be broken, and once they are broken, they don't necessarily heal or set straight in the same way that they were. Still got a very bulging cheek. It was a serious mouthful there. Quite a short, I know this sounds ridiculous, she's quite a short giraffe. I mean, as giraffe go, she's not that young, she's quite dark in colour, but she's tiny. I mean, everything's relative. Hey, pretty girl. Nancy, I think you're right. I think the giraffe thinks we've lost our minds. I think I might agree. But hey, at least we're having a wonderful time while we do. What do you think, Andrew? Have we lost our minds?
Definitely.
Definitely. Entirely plausible. Hello, girl. Actually been a really beautiful morning. Nice to have this drop in temperature. And I'm sure the animals are all enjoying it as well. Okay, let us leave her and to her ruminations and Taylor Swift listening. Enjoy, girl. Short. Oh, hello. Giraffe number 2. also a female, a bit more normally proportioned, and playing camera shy. Disappeared. Amazing. You wouldn't think that a 5-meter tall animal could disappear quite so efficiently. They do that very well. Well, for the most part, these giraffes out here, relatively... jigger. It doesn't seem to stick in gear. There we go. For the most part, they're relatively safe from most threats. It's only really a big pride of lions that could take them down. But there are certain prides of lions, particularly in Kruger, that hunt giraffe and specialize in hunting giraffe by chasing them onto tar roads where they slip and fall down. And James Taylor, I know you were wondering whether or not they fall down and injure themselves. Not often. As I said, with the lions, it's a deliberate act on the part of the lions. It does occasionally happen. What does happen slightly more regularly is that when they're drinking, if they hold their heads down for too long, the way that their veins and valve systems work, they actually can pass out if they hold their heads lower than their chests for too long. And occasionally giraffe drown in water holes in that way. But generally, for the most part, very graceful animals. Very seldom. They can break limbs, especially if they run into aardvark holes. But it always amazes me that there aren't more injuries in the bush than there actually are. Just the number of spiky thorns and hidden logs and hidden aardvark holes. I know all about them from driving. Cool. Thank you, girl. The other common injury with giraffe, particularly in open spaces, is that they do get struck by lightning. As the highest point in the area, it does occasionally happen. I'm still completely distracted by all of the different possibilities for songs. I'm now trying to think of what millipedes would listen to. I feel like it would be something completely unexpected. And it's been an incredibly entertaining morning. Thank you all for joining in the game as enthusiastically as you have. And of course, a big thank you to Andrew for masterminding the whole process, as well as his always awesome camera work. And a big thanks as well to Brent for his wonderful Karula sighting, and to Kirsten Loon FC. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to pass you back across to Brent for the last few moments of our sunrise safari. Cheers for now.
Wasn't that fantastic being able to spend, Vildy told me, or Vim told me, we spent just under 2 hours with that leopard, and she did take us through some interesting areas, and she's still on the hunt in this cool weather. She went into a very deep drainage system, and we all were unable to follow her, but hopefully she has some luck while we're gone, and we'll definitely try and look for her on the sunset safari. Also nice to catch up with those wild beasts, see how many babies were still remaining. So there were 3 there, so I think the lions probably got to 2 yesterday morning, and the lions have crossed south. Wild dogs were found to the east of us, so hopefully they come west this afternoon. Oh, look at that. You're gonna get them. Nice juvenile battery. I'm going to go backwards. Oh, he's hovering almost above us. No, you're going too fast, Bandolier. Oh, he's just going too quickly. Oh, there we go, he's turned. He's just going a little bit too quickly for us. There we go. So it's still got the juvenile colouring. Whoop, disappeared. So it has been fantastic, and thank you everyone for joining us, especially the new viewers. We really do appreciate your questions, and sorry if we didn't answer all of them. We tried to get through as many of them as possible, but don't forget to hashtag Safari Live and share your screenshots from the morning, or put them on our Facebook page, the Safari Live Facebook page. And another epic safari this morning, and hopefully an even more epic one to follow on the Sunset Safari. Liam and I are going to go find some breakfast. We're quite hungry after following Karula. So have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are in the world, and we will see you later.